This program contains discussions of real-life crimes and may not be suitable for all audiences. When Darkness Falls is created for educational and awareness purposes, every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, and we tell these stories with deep respect for the victims, their families, and their communities. The goal is not to sensationalize, but to remember, to understand, and to learn.
Before we begin, I would like to share a brief note from a place of respect. In this story, you'll hear the names of victims, loved ones, and items that are meaningful to many. We've taken great care to research the correct pronunciations. However, if I do mispronounce a name or a word, please know it's never done with disrespect. Every name spoken here deserves honor. If a correction is needed, I welcome it gently and respectfully. We speak their names to remember them, never to diminish them. Christmas is meant to soften the world, to fill homes with warmth, light, and the comfort of family. But just days after Christmas in 2024, Calgary woke to a story that shattered that sense of peace. A mother, a grandfather, and a family bound by love and tradition torn apart in the quiet of winter. The snow doesn't just fall here, it settles, layer upon layer, softening the sharp edges of the city and silencing its streets. In December, daylight fades before most families have even finished dinner, and nights feel long, still, and endless. But in those long nights, you find beauty. Christmas in Calgary is a season of contrast. Outside, bitter winds sweep in from the Rockies, but inside homes are filled with the smells of pine and cinnamon, the flicker of candles, and the laughter of families gathered around tables. It is, for so many, a season of peace. And maybe that's why this story feels so haunting, because peace is exactly what was shattered. Christmas isn't just celebrated, it's cherished. It brings together not only families, but entire communities. Immigrant families, especially, see the season as a time to pass traditions to the next generation. For Polish families, the celebration of Vigila, Christmas Eve, is a centerpiece of the holiday. More than gifts, more than decorations, it is about family, faith, and memory. And in Calgary, where the Polish community has grown steadily for decades, these traditions thrive. Families share wafer bread, opatek, each person offering blessings to one another before the meal begins. Candles are lit, carols are sung, and in that moment, faith and family feel inseparable. Calgary is often described as a young city, a city of energy and industry. But within its neighborhoods live communities rooted in centuries of tradition. For families who once felt far from home, this season binds them not just to faith, but to one another. A reminder that even in the coldest nights, warmth can be found at the table, in prayer, in community. And for the Wardzala family, for Stanislaw, his daughter Ania, and her 3 children, these traditions were the heart of their Christmas. Every year, Stanislaw led the family in opatek. Every year, Ania guided her children through carols, teaching them both in English and Polish verses. Theirs was a Christmas that reflected heritage, love, and the quiet strength of family ties. Stanislaw was the family's anchor. He was a proud Polish immigrant, part of the wave that built new lives in Canada. He had known hardship, growing up in post-war Poland where opportunities were few and sacrifices were many. Those struggles only hardened his resolve to give his family something better. When he arrived in Calgary, he brought with him not just a suitcase, but centuries of culture. He built his life around hard work, his Catholic faith, and above all, family. In the Polish community, Stanislaw was known as dependable. If there was a parish event, he was there. If someone needed help with a repair, a ride, or a prayer, Stanislaw would show up. But his proudest role was grandfather. His grandchildren lit up his later years. He was a kind of grandfather who attended school plays, cheered at soccer games, and never missed a regala. He was always at the head of the table, leading the family in the breaking of all patek. And he loved his daughter Ania fiercely. He had seen her through ups and downs, supported her teaching, and in her struggles at home. He was her constant protector. Ania Kaminski was the kind of teacher every parent hopes their child will have. She worked at Calgary Elementary School, where a classroom wasn't just a place of learning. It was a safe haven. Her colleagues remember her as patient, soft-spoken, the kind of woman who never raised her voice, but somehow always had control of the room. Parents remember her smile, the way she crouched down to a child's level, always eye to eye, never towering over them. And her students, they adored her. To them, Mrs. Kaminski wasn't just a teacher. She was someone who believed in them, even when they didn't believe in themselves. But her life wasn't only about teaching. Ania was mother of 3. Her children were her world. She balanced lesson plans with bedtime stories, grading papers with packing lunches. Her friends said she was the happiest in the quiet moments, reading to her kids, walking them to school, tucking them in at night. Every Christmas, she worked tirelessly to make sure her children felt the magic of the season. The tree decorated just right, stockings hung carefully, Polish carols mixed with English ones as she tried to keep heritage alive in her home. Together, Ania and Stanislaw represented 2 sides of one story, tradition and future. He carried the old world, the memories of Poland, the faith, the discipline. She carried the new, a Canadian upbringing, the blending of cultures, the modern balancing act of motherhood and career. But they both shared the same devotion, family. That devotion was never more visible than at Christmas. The house filled with the smell of pierogi frying, candles flickered near a small nativity set, and carols were sung in both languages. Stanislaw at the head of the table, Ania beside her children, making sure they knew their roots felt their worth. In homes across Calgary on Christmas 2024, families gathered around trees, exchanging gifts, telling stories, filling their kitchens with the smell of roasted turkey and holiday desserts. Inside the Kaminski household, the morning began much the same. Ania's 3 children excited, eager to unwrap presents. But for a moment, it looked like Christmas had brought peace. But beneath the ribbons and carols, tension was brewing. Tension that had been building for years. Ania's marriage to Benedict Kaminski was not an easy one. At first, he had seemed like a charming partner, the kind of man who could win over a room with his smile. But behind closed doors, their relationship was often strained. Friends recall her confiding about arguments, about control, about mistrust, about a temper that surfaced when things didn't go his way. By Christmas of 2024, their marriage was fractured. They were living under the same roof, but not truly together. And while Ania tried to shield her children from the worst of it, the cracks were showing. On Christmas morning, the house was filled with laughter, but as the day stretched on, tensions rose. We don't know the exact words that were exchanged, but we know there was an argument, one that escalated quickly. Neighbors would later say they heard raised voices. One described it as sharp, cutting, impossible to ignore. Ania stood her ground. She was no longer willing to accept Benedict's temper at the cost of keeping the peace. And she wasn't standing alone, because her father, Stanislaw, was there. Stanislaw had always been protective of his daughter. On this Christmas day, he stepped between her and the storm. His presence carried weight. He wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. To Benedict, his father-in-law's very presence was a reminder. Ania was not alone. To the children, Stanislaw's steady voice was reassurance. Even as voices rose in one room, he found ways to calm them in another, distracting them with stories, with games, with the promise of vigala, leftovers for dinner. But what no one realized, not then, not fully, was that this confrontation marked a turning point. The argument didn't end when voices quieted. It lingered. It simmered. For Benedict, it became a wound to pride, a reminder that he was losing control of his marriage, his household, and perhaps even his children. And for Stanislaw, it reinforced his role as protector, willing to stand in the gap if Benedict's temper ever crossed the line again. The days after Christmas carried a strange rhythm, excitement of the holiday fades, leaving behind a quieter, slower pace. In Calgary, families returned to routines. Some braved the malls for Boxing Day sales. Others stayed home, sipping cocoa, letting children play with new toys. But inside the Kaminski home, peace was fragile. The argument on Christmas Day hadn't disappeared. It lingered like frost on a window, silent, but impossible to ignore. While the city bustled with bargain hunters on December 26, inside Ania's home, the atmosphere was tense. Ania tried to keep life normal for her children, meals, laughter, games. But beneath her calm smile, she carried worry. Stanislaw stayed close. He knew his daughter was vulnerable, and he refused to leave her to face Benedict's moods alone. In those days, he became more than a grandfather. He became more than a father or grandfather. He was a shield. December 27th came and went with little outward drama, but silence can be as heavy as shouting. Benedict had grown quieter, withdrawn, and in that silence, tension deepened. Those closest to the family would later say that Ania confided feelings of unease. She knew the peace couldn't last. She knew something wasn't right. And yet, she pushed forward, for her children's sake. They were her anchor, her reason to endure. On December 28th, the community gathered again. For many families, this meant attending parish services, singing carols one last time before the new year. Stanislaw was there, as he always was, standing tall among fellow parishioners, shaking hands, wishing blessings. To anyone looking, nothing seemed unusual. He smiled. He prayed. He carried the weight of tradition. But inside, he worried. He had seen the cracks in his daughter's marriage. He had stood between her and Benedict's temper, and he must have known, if that temper turned violent, he would be called to stand there again. The snow had fallen heavily overnight. Streets were quiet. Christmas lights flickered on empty porches, their colors reflecting faintly on snowbanks. Inside the Kaminski home, the day began almost normally. Children played, meals were shared, but by nightfall, a different mood crept in. Something unspoken lingered in the air. Neighbors would later recall the house seeming unusually still. Curtains drawn, lights dimmed earlier than usual. And then, Nothing. For hours, silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful, but ominous. The days after Christmas should have been filled with laughter, rest, and gratitude. Instead, for the Kaminski family, they became a countdown. Because by the end of December 29th, everything would change. Ania settled her children after a long day. Toys tucked away, leftovers cleared from the table. Still brooding from the Christmas Day confrontation, still carrying resentment, Benedict's silence was no longer passive. It had hardened into something darker. As the night wore on, the house grew still. The children slept, unaware of the danger that was gathering around them. For Ania, the silence was uneasy. Perhaps she hoped it meant the storm had passed, but it hadn't. In the hours before dawn, violence erupted. Benedict turned on his own family. What followed was swift, brutal, and irreversible. Police were called to the house, a report of a person in medical distress at approximately 9:30 p.m. What they found shocked them to their core. The body of 71-year-old Stanislaw Wardzala was found in his home in Calgary. Based on concerns from family members, the investigators continued their investigation and around 11:15 p.m. went to an address in Tuscany and found the body of his daughter, 33-year-old Ania Kaminski. The children miraculously spared, but left in the middle of a nightmare. The suspect, Benedict Kaminski, was nowhere to be found.
Images of what looks like a happy home, decorated for the holidays with children's winter toys outside. It doesn't tell the grim story of what was happening behind closed doors, just days after a family who lived here celebrated Christmas.
It's a fairly quiet street. Nothing like this has ever happened before. There's no crime around this area at all.
Neighbors on this Tuscany street waking up Monday morning to police cars in the news. The woman they describe as friendly and kind and a mother of 3 young children was killed the night before.
I'm absolutely heartbroken. They were such a lovely, happy family.
It was around 11:15 Sunday night when police were called to this Tuscany home. Inside, they found the woman's body. Just an hour and a half earlier, they had been at another scene in Kinkora where they found the body of the man they believed to be her father.
As far as the timeline or the order of those events, we don't know. That's still subject of the ongoing investigation.
Neighbors in Kinkora heard the police response Sunday night, not realizing what had happened or that there was a similar scene just a few communities over.
I heard a loud bang, and it's not unusual. I thought somebody slammed a car door. I looked over at my husband and he didn't flinch because he's usually the one who does, and I thought, okay, well, and carried on watching the movie.
Police are investigating the 2 killings they say are linked and targeted. The suspect, 38-year-old Benedict Kaminski, is believed to be the woman's husband. Officers say the 3 children are okay and with family.
Really, the motive behind the killings is unknown at the current time, but there is that domestic connection between the suspect that we have and the victims.
As the investigation continues, the disbelief of how this could happen intensifies.
Lovely family. I would have never expected anything like this at all.
Megan Cobb, Global News.
The news spread quickly through Calgary's Polish community. For those who had sung carols beside them only days earlier, it felt impossible to grasp. Ania, the beloved teacher, gone. Stanislaw, the respected elder, gone. The city was left asking, how could this happen? And where was Benedict? That night marked the end of innocence for one family, and the beginning of a desperate manhunt. But Calgary wasn't just mourning, it was afraid. There is a killer on the loose. In every tragedy, the headlines focus on the crime, the suspect, the investigation. But here in Calgary, in December of 2024, there were 3 young faces left in the middle of it all. Ania's children, a 6-year-old son, a 4-year-old daughter, and a 2-year-old son, innocent, sleeping upstairs on the night their lives changed forever. They woke not to Christmas carols, but to police officers. Not to their mother's voice or their grandfather's steady reassurance, but to confusion, chaos, and loss. In the wake of the tragedy, Ania's brother Peter and his mother became the children's immediate protectors. Peter publicly confirmed that he and his mother planned to raise the children, instantly making him the new guardian, and the man tasked with carrying both his profound grief and his sudden enormous responsibility. Police wasted no time. They knew Benedict was armed, they knew he was dangerous, and they knew, with 3 children now left behind, there is no telling what his next move might be. Roadblocks were set up, patrols combed the neighborhoods, helicopters scanned the snow-covered fields around the outskirts of Calgary, but Benedict had vanished into the cold. News spread fast. By midday, Benedict's photograph was on every screen, every newspaper. Warnings echoed across Calgary. Be cautious. Stay indoors. Report anything suspicious. In the city's Polish community, the fear was personal. Families who had just shared carols and prayers with the Kaminskis now wondered if they were safe in their own homes. Detectives worked around the clock. Every lead was followed, every tip checked. But winter was not on their side. Tracks in the snow vanished in hours. The bitter cold meant fewer people in the streets to notice anything unusual. And with every hour Benedict remained missing, the pressure on law enforcement grew heavier. The city was not just grieving, it was afraid. As December 30th turned into December 31st, their search intensified. Officers expanded the perimeter. Tips came in from across the city. A figure spotted near a bus stop. A car abandoned on a side street. A man moving through the park. Each one raised hope. Each one led to nothing. And so the fear only deepened. Calgary was entering the new year with a killer still at large. On December 31st, fireworks lit up the Calgary sky. But for many, the celebrations felt hollow. As families toasted the new year, their thoughts drift to the Kaminski children, to the faces of Ania and Stanislaw, and to the man whose absence loomed like a shadow over the city. Everyone was waiting for news. Where was Benedict Kaminski? And what would the new year bring? The manhunt was entering its most desperate phase, and soon, the search would end in the most unexpected of places. While Calgary celebrated the first dawn of a new year, search teams fanned out across the outskirts of the city. Their mission hadn't changed since Christmas week: find Benedict Kaminski. That morning, they did. After days of tracking tips, following leads that went cold, and chasing shadows in the snow, police turned their focus to a wooded area just beyond the city's limits. Benedict Kaminski was finally located in the Water Valley area, near his car, where he had taken his own life. His death ensured that there would be no trial and no public inquiry for the family. All they were left with was silence.
It's a tragedy that defies logic. Something so unreal he's having a hard time believing the brutal truth. His father and his only sister are never coming home.
I still don't feel like this is real. I know it's real. I don't want to believe it's real, but I know it's real.
Peter is the younger brother of Ania Wardzala Kaminski and son of Stanislaw Wardzala. The two were murdered after what started as a tense Christmas dinner with family.
My sister at that point, she basically said that this was the final straw. She was not going to be able to handle dealing with the relationship that she was in with him, and she said that basically she was done.
Peter says the couple's relationship was already on the rocks.
My sister told me, after that whole incident happened on Christmas Day, she said that she thought about leaving him 2 years ago, but they had their youngest son, who's obviously 2 years old now. She said she was going to try and make it work.
He and his sister Ania were inseparable, talking or texting at least once a day.
She was my sister. I always respected her. I loved her. She was just the most beautiful human being in the world.
And he also faces a world without his father.
Hi, Babcha.
71-year-old Stanislaw retired last year after working 20 years as a custodian. He was an avid outdoorsman, a confidant, and a friend.
No one had bad things to say about him. He was just a jolly man, He would do everything for us,
Ania's husband, 38-year-old Benedict Kaminski, was the suspect in both killings and was later found dead near his car in Water Valley.
He deserved to go to jail. He deserved to get what was coming to him. And he deserved whatever was going to come to him once he entered whatever prison he was going to be sent to, because he deserved to rot in a cell.
Peter and his mother plan on taking care of his sister's 3 children, orphaned by these senseless killings.
I want these kids to have as normal, whatever normal will be now to them, as lives as they can have, because they're never going to be normal again. But me and my mom are going to do absolutely everything we can for them to have the best life that they can moving forward.
A GoFundMe set up for the family has since reached nearly $200,000.
The news broke quickly. For some, relief. The fear of a killer at large was over. But for Ania's family, for her children, for her community, the discovery brought no real closure. It meant the questions would never be fully answered. Why had Benedict turned violent? Could it have been prevented? Could someone have intervened before it was too late? Those questions would linger. In the silence of those woods, Benedict's life ended. In the silence he left behind, in his children's hearts, in his community, in the city of Calgary, that silence still echoes.
A few hours after taking the unusual step of issuing a dangerous person alert, police say they have found the body of the man suspected of killing 2 family members on Sunday night. Responding to reports of a person in medical distress, police found a man in his 70s, dead in northwest Calgary. Later on Sunday evening, in a different neighborhood, officers found the body of his daughter, a woman in her 30s. News of the killings alarmed Calgary residents, who described the neighborhoods as quiet, calm, and peaceful.
It's scary. It's messed up, so that's not fun to wake up to.
Definitely concerning that it happens right here, just a few houses down.
Police issued the alert just after noon on Monday.
This is an Alberta emergency alert,
urging people to look out for 38-year-old Benedict Kaminski, who police believed was the woman's spouse. Investigators say Kaminski wasn't known to police. They warned he could be armed and asked residents to remain vigilant.
So although we still very much believe this was a targeted homicide, we just wanted to alert the public to the concerns that we have for the behaviors of this individual, having committed a double homicide within the last 24 hours, and really we're stronger together as far as utilizing the public to help us in this investigation.
And they did get that help. Police canceled the alert just hours later, saying tips from the public led them to Kaminski's black Nissan Pathfinder, parked along a road in the Water Valley area, about 65 kilometers northwest of the city. Police found Kaminski dead near the SUV. Autopsies for the 2 victims are scheduled for Friday, and in the meantime, police say they are supporting the family members, who are safe and secure. Madeline Cummings, CBC News, Edmonton.
The discovery of his body closed one chapter of the story, but for those left behind, it was only the beginning of a long journey through grief, resilience, and remembrance. The story of Ania Kaminski and Stanislaw Wardzala does not end in the woods outside Calgary. It continues in the lives of those left behind, in 3 children who lost everything, yet still hold on to hope. and a brother who stepped into the role of protector, and in a community that refuses to let tragedy have the final word. Ania was more than a name and a headline. She was a teacher, a mother, a friend. Her classroom had always been alive with laughter and learning. After her death, that room stood still, her desk adorned with flowers, her chair left empty. But her impact didn't end there. Former students spoke of her kindness, her encouragement, her ability to make every child feel seen. And in those memories, she lives on. Stanislaw Wardzala carried the resilience of an immigrant, a father, and a grandfather. He was a man of faith, of tradition, of deep love for his family. In Calgary's Polish community, his loss was felt profoundly. He had been a bridge between generations, reminding younger families of the values their parents carried across the ocean. In every vigil, in every prayer, his presence was remembered. For Ania's children, the road ahead is steep. They must grow up carrying questions no child should ever ask. Yet, surrounded by relatives, neighbors, an entire city that rallied to support them, they are not alone. Their resilience will become the final measure of this tragedy, because even in grief, life continues. And the love of a mother and grandfather does not vanish with their passing. It becomes part of the children's story. In the days and months that followed, Calgary's community did what it always does in times of loss. It came together. Vigils filled the parish with candlelight. Neighbors brought food, raised funds, shared prayers. In every Christmas since, the memory of Ania and Stanislaw has been honored. A reminder that even in the darkest of winter, light can still shine. This tragedy unfolded against the backdrop of Christmas, a season meant for joy, for gathering, for family. But Christmas is also about light breaking into darkness. And though violence tried to silence that night, it did not succeed. Because every year, as Calgary's streets glow with holiday lights, the memory of Ania and Stanislaw glows alongside them. A reminder that while evil can scar, love endures. If a moment from this story stayed with you, share it or speak about it. Awareness can be the light someone else needs.